Hi everyone, welcome back to the RePHIL studio. This is your host SB4. As always, get your cans ready. We're going to refill to 99 as we always do because we're ready for the next set. Of course, we have our two special guests waiting on the other side of the studio very shortly. We'll talk about some really exciting updates, maybe some less exciting than others, but regardless, I'll talk about a few things about Bandori just to kind of summarize a little bit about what's going on, in 2022 and things to look forward to in 2023. Because again, this franchise is going strong after so many years, and we're going to approach a new year. It's a great time to sort of wrap up and think about what the series has done for many of us, and obviously hear your thoughts in the comments below. So of course, remember to check us out on all of your favorite podcast platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and of course, check out the Academy Discord server and such. So yeah, links in the description below. Either way, we'll start off today by talking a little bit more about some exciting news right off the bat. It's already been a week or so, but first of all, I want to talk about the new CVO AI synthesizers for POPY and Rose. So for those, again, who are unaware about this, basically Kasumi's voice with Aimin and Yukina's voice with Aiba Aina, their voices have now become sort of used as a synth, like kind of like Vocaloid-like. So basically a lot of people on the internet now are finally got a hold of it. They purchased it and they're experimenting how it goes and making covers. There's already official covers. POPY has covered, I believe it was Dream Gradient, and Rose has covered Daylight. So it's pretty interesting to see how these synths have been used, and a lot of people have been very creative again online with their covers, and you could really make your dream covers with these two. So again, the fact that these synths has been released is really exciting. I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of ideas that people bring out with using these synths and trying to make some really amazing covers, especially the dream covers that probably will never happen. But just being able to use technology and have Yukina or Kasumi basically sing the songs that you want is obviously really, really cool. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more from that. I believe there's a contest as well in JP for making the best sort of cover for a particular song. Again, I don't know too much of the exact details, and I'm not going to share the details because if I don't really know too much about it, I don't want to share misinformation with you guys, but definitely check it out if you are interested in that and do a little bit of research yourself. But again, for those who maybe aren't unaware, the synthesizers or the AI voices for Kasumi and Yukina are out, and people are making covers, and it's really cool, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how they will be implemented. And in terms of other things, kind of to wrap up the year as well, as I talked about before, the cover collection Volume 7 has been out as well. I believe is a really good cover collection. If you haven't checked out my previous video of me ranking all 14 songs, feel free to check out my channel. Of course, subscribe if you haven't done so already. It's a good chance to do so as well. So a lot of great things to wrap up 2022, and a lot of things to look forward to in 2023. There's the 11th Live featuring the joint concerts with Pop and Party Reza Swilin, as well as Roselia together with Morphonica. Morphonica, speaking of which, is also getting their first album as well, being released in 2023. So a lot of things to look forward to in 2023, which I guess leads to my studio question that I've been asking all of my Discord server members every podcast episode. And this time around, my question is a very basic question. And of course, any listeners can feel free to comment on this as well. The studio question for this time is, what are your New Year's resolutions for Bandori for 2023? It could be your own personal achievements, or it could be something that perhaps you want to see in terms of the game or inside the game, what you want to see. And we have quite a few people who've commented on this, and it's pretty interesting because I actually asked this question last year, and I had some pretty nice answers as well. So I wonder if any of those people who contributed last year actually were able to fulfill those New Year's resolutions this year. Regardless, we have a lot of New Year's resolutions coming in for 2023. I'll share them in the screen here. A lot of people are talking about like, dream events that they want to see in the future, maybe some certain titles that they want to achieve, like a T10 or even higher, right? A lot of tiering goals. It's really nice to see, especially when, this podcast is pretty focused on tiering and, seeing people get their achievements there. So all the best to those who are going to obtain or try to achieve a T10 or higher in this, in this series. A lot of people have also been thinking about things like, improvements to the game, right? Some people want to see, ENdori work properly and probably on Android, right? And that's going to be a pretty tall task. So we'll see how that, while that goes. And if that's going to end up happening, right? I think again, if the game can work for more people, just makes it a lot easier for people to play and just grows the community as well and expands the player base. I definitely, if I were to have a personal, like if I were to do a 2023 sort of New Year's resolution for Bandori, of course, my personal sort of New Year's resolution is hopefully get that T1. For those who are unaware, I'm actually going to try and aim for first place in the school excursion event featuring the Hanasakigawa students. So that would be Sayo, Aya, Rinko, Chisato, and Kanan. So that's going to be happening in around early to mid-February, just based on the scheduling. So we'll see how that goes. So fingers crossed, that will be something I will do. And of course, for those who may not be too aware about that goal that I have in mind, well, there you go. I've shared my goal, and if you want to help support me in terms of tiering this event and doing what you can to support me through filling and all that stuff, feel free to join again my Discord server below. And of course, I will make an announcement probably closer to when the event happens on inviting people to join the server. So that's a personal goal. I think in terms of an actual technical goal, I really do hope that the game eventually does get fixed. It's a really tall task, I know. That's something that I think would be a little bit of a more difficult ask. So I think in general, I just want a little bit more consistency, a little bit more clarity, and I hope that ENdori, I think, can follow its schedule well. We'll talk about that very shortly as well. ENdori is not necessarily up to task when it comes to meeting up with schedules and keeping up to the plans. So I think just have a little bit more transparency, a little bit more consistency in terms of them being able to deliver the content that they need to do. I think it's something I do wish on, because otherwise that does really detract on, how many people want to actually play the game. And it just makes things a little bit less exciting for the fan base. And, we are approaching the 5th year anniversary of ENdori very soon, 6th year anniversary in JP Dora. There's a lot, the game is getting really old and people are moving on to other games. So, hopefully some consistency, some level of, a balance, and hopefully the 60th anniversary does bring some great content for the series and just kind of really rejuvenates it even further. So that's some personal and also some other things on the side that I want to wish for Bandori in 2023. One other thing just on the side, I would love to have Care Expo come back for 2023. Again, I've met so many great people in this community, and a lot of the times Care Expo was sort of the gateway for people to kind of meet together who have a passion for similar franchises. Care Expo is specifically focused on Bushiroad related franchises, so it's really neat to see and possibly be able to meet some people there. So I think another a New Year's resolution that I think is relatively reasonable to ask is hopefully Bushiroad will get Care Expo 2023 going and on board. So again, let me know in the comments below what are your New Year's resolutions for 2023. And of course, any sort of these studio questions, you're welcome to contribute in the Discord server, or of course, just comment below. So I would look forward to reading them, and hopefully best wishes on all of your 2023 New Year's resolutions for Bandori. So now I want to talk a little bit more about ENdori, because there are some, a little bit of concerns when it comes to ENdori. If you've may notice, so some of you may notice that starting in the middle of December, they had an announcement where events were actually going to be longer. They're basically the normal sized events like from before, where they take about 8 days to complete. And they're doing this because they want to give themselves a little bit more time to get the update ready. There's this particular update that They wanted to get ready, and this update in particular had a new sort of spark system, especially for the Dreamfest spark systems, where they had like the blue sort of seals, right? That was supposedly to be implemented with Backstage Pass 5, which is the event that is happening right now. But unfortunately, they had to delay that process. So unfortunately, we won't get to see that just yet. They don't really have an estimated time on when this is actually going to be released, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, it'll be sometime early January 2023. But yes, this is a major bummer. Again, there's a little bit of inconsistency issues once more with the ENdori. You know, they have to extend the schedule in order to try and make up for the fact and buy themselves more time to get this update going. So it is a bit of a struggle, but we'll see if they have something for 2023. And again, for those who are a little bit confused about why there's a speed up, check out my podcast episode with Lucia, the events community coordinator for Bushiroad and the sort of worldwide server and the English side. Definitely check that out. He shares some really great insight there. In terms of things to look forward to for ENdori, there is a schedule and an idea for the next week and a half on what is going to be released in the game in terms of new content. I have this graphic that will be shown out on the screen right now for reference, and special thanks to Yvette's from the Pubcord, or the official Bang Dream Discord server. I'm not sure if it was him who made it or someone else, or it was just part of someone in the server who posted it, but this is a really good graphic on what is going to be added to the game. So again, right now, the event is Backstage Pass 5. This is part 1, where the event is starting from December 29th to January 6th. There's going to be a second part to Backstage Pass 5. So that will be another event that will start on January 8th to some time. Again, I'm assuming it's going to be a 6-day event, the second one, but it could be an 8-day event. Who knows? We'll see how that goes. But either way, those are going to be 2 events upcoming. There's a few New Year stickers. There's, of course, the free 10 pulls that you could get, up to 100 free pulls a day. So that's really exciting. Definitely look forward to that and, get your pulls in ready. There's also a Dreamfest and limited Miracle ticket gacha that you could use, and with paid stars, right? So if you get those paid stars and get the set, you will be able to, get your own Miracle ticket, which is probably one of the most valuable things, especially for a tier, to choose exactly what card you want for maybe a particular event that you want to tier for. It's pretty important. So, definitely for those who are, interested in tiering and need a specific card, this is probably your best bet. It is costing money, of course, but it is your best bet. Now, we're getting a lot of new songs for the next couple of days. We've already received a few new songs. At the time of this recording, we've received 3 new songs today. Circle Thanks Music as part of the event, as well as the Eve sort of artist tie-up song here. So we have Senko, which is the original, song that Eve composed for Roselia, as well as their cover of Kai Kai Kitan. And again, we have a lot of songs that will be added in the near future. I'm just going to name them really quickly. And also just to note, most of these songs were actually added on volume cover collection, volume 7. So you can actually listen to the full versions relatively quickly right now. So Haru wa Tsugeru, then it's Vampire, Mental Chainsaw, Unravel, and Drive Us Crazy. Those will be in sort of the first couple of days that we see right now. Then the latter half of the days, we're going to have Realize, Brand New Pastel Road, and Sparkling Daydream. Now, Brand New Pastel Road, that is the hardest tie-up song with Zach. So that's also, again, an original song that Zach sort of composed for Pastel Palettes. So definitely check that out. And January 5th, there's a lot of things being added for some reason. There's also going to be the No Sho Sasakatsu Girl, and as well as the Eternal Blaze special difficulty. Then there's Kuchisuke Diamond and the special difficulties for Agehacho and Amanajaku. So a lot of things will be added in this next week. And a half. So definitely look forward to that. There's some pretty exciting stuff for ENdori. So let me know in the comments below what you are most looking forward to for the ENdori updates. For me, I would say it's hard to say. I think, again, Obviously, free polls is really nice and really fun. I think just in general, having more songs being added to the game is going to be really neat and just a lot of new content. So I am definitely looking forward to that. I'm also really looking forward to the new songs that are being added to JP as well. Just brand new covers. So I'm definitely going to be looking an eye for that. And of course, I did a summary video of all the new changes that will be added in the new year in another video in my channel. So if you're new here, definitely check that out as well. So that basically wraps up what I really want to talk about today. A little bit shorter in terms of the news aspect, but again, hope everyone has a great 2022 year and cheers to a great 2023 ahead. So let's move on to the other side of the studio where we're going to talk with our special guests who are waiting, and let's hear some of their great stories. Hey everyone, it's Phil here. Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. As a reminder, the RePHIL Studio podcast is available on all of your favorite podcast platforms. So check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And when you're there, feel free to give comments, leave a high rating. All that support is greatly appreciated. Now that the RePHIL Studio podcast is having a less frequent upload schedule, this will encourage you to hopefully join the Anga Academy Discord server. Links in the description below, so you're up to date on when the live recordings on the podcast are happening and when the next episode will be. Of course, in the live recordings, you can contribute to the discussion, including to the studio question, and of course, interact with special guests featured on this podcast. So hope to see you there. Now, big shout outs to our Filler Nation members. So you guys always get shout outs there. They've been constantly supporting me on my content. So greatly appreciate you guys. And if you want a chance to join the Filler Nation as well, feel free to either subscribe to my Twitch channel where I stream quite often. I also have a Patreon, links in the description below. And of course, if you're on YouTube, you can just give a quick super thanks. All that support, of course, is greatly appreciated and it means a lot to me. So thank you all so much for listening to RePHIL Studio. The episode will resume shortly. For our special guest feature today, we will have the honor and pleasure to welcome Z and Tia to the podcast today. So as a brief introduction to both of them, Z has obtained 2 T10 titles, T7 in the Outside Inside event, as well as very recently in T8 in the Bourgeon Swaying in the Waves event, as well as a 3rd place finish in the Shining Curtains in the Espoir event. Tia, on the other hand, has a T12, close to T10, and also in the Espoir event that I just mentioned earlier. So for both of you, thank you so much for taking the time to join the podcast today.
It's our pleasure.
Great.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Great. Anything else that you want to add to that intro that maybe I missed from either of you, or is that intro pretty good?
For me, I'm also cheering the current Backstage Pass event. I'm currently in 3rd place, but I'm not actually aiming for podium, just T10.
Oh, well, we'll definitely check on your progress in a couple of days, see how things go, Z. But that's even though you're cheering, good. Thank you for, I guess, taking some time to join the podcast today. So
yeah, it's fine. The event is kind of dead for now, so I'm just chilling.
All right. Okay, well, both of you, again, thank you for taking the time to join. And just to get things started, as I always do, I always just ask this really easy question, just to kind of get an idea of like everyone's origin story, how they got into Bang Dream. So I'm going to start with you, Z, and asking you, how did you first get into Bandori? And, what made you decide that this was a game that you wanted to play?
Okay, so I'm actually a Bandori boomer. I started during the first ever event because my best friend back then introduced me to the game, and she was like, "Yo, look at this new game. It's super cool. You should play it." And then I downloaded it, and it seemed very cool. And in the beginning, I thought the attributes, like the bands, work like attributes in Love Live. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, I've never played Love Live before Bang Dream.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting because again, I was the same. I didn't play Love Live either. I started with Bandori as well.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
And then what got me into cheering was ENdori, actually, from SSM. It was like a cheering group like way back. I saw him on my Instagram page and was like, that seems fun. I want to do that. So I DM'd him, And I got into SSM and then tried my first T100 during Little Smiley Steps, which sadly ended in a boat.
Oh no, not the boat.
Exactly T101.
Oh, that's even worse.
Exactly.
Oh no. Well, that's a pretty interesting experience right out the bat in terms of like, you getting into tiering and learning more about that. We'll definitely elaborate a little bit more into that later in this episode, Z. But before we do that, I just want to I guess ask as well, when you first got into Bandori, what kind of, I guess, inspired you or really brought into the game? Was it like a particular character or band or just the gameplay in general?
I think it was just the fact that it was a rhythm game, and back then I was a K-pop fan, so I played BTS Superstar. So I saw rhythm game, I was like, this is fun. I wanna play that, and also the characters were really cute. My first favorite was Mocha and Eve.
Okay, well, that's pretty. It's funny because we've had so many people on the podcast. This is not even that surprising that like a K-pop. I think pretty sure you're not the first guest that got into rhythm games because of the K-pop Superstars rhythm game. So you're definitely not the only one.
But K-pop got a grip on people.
Yeah, for sure. And then I imagine though that since starting the game though, I think your favorite character, favorite band has slightly changed since.
Yeah, absolutely. Mocha and Eve still have a place in my heart, but like my favorites now are Popping Party and Razor Sulan, and specifically Arisa and Ray, and also Nanami and Tsukushi.
Oh wow! So it's good because again we have 35 characters, all so varied and vast, and it's all good to have a lot of different favorites. It's really difficult to not have a favorite in this series. So
yeah, that's true. They are all very lovable characters.
Great. Well, again, thank you again, Z, for that introduction. We'll move on to you, Tia. Same question to you. How did you first get into Bang Dream Girls Band Party? What kind of convinced you to get started in the game?
So my story is actually really similar to Leo's. Last year during the summer, it was like I was on TikTok, and it was during when like everyone was talking about Firebird and how it was like the hardest song ever to play on Expert. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And the thing is, I heard it so much to the point where I was like, this song got into my head. I couldn't like stop like thinking about it. And so I downloaded it. I downloaded Bandori, and I remember the specific event was Railgun. And the story is really funny because when I first got into Bandori, when I was started to play and stuff like that, I didn't really have any rhythm game knowledge of like whatsoever and like all that. And so when I was starting to play, I remember pulling on the gacha for the first time, and I got the limited cards. And but I didn't believe they were limited because you know how people like get to like mess with like new like players and stuff like that. I had my friend tell me like, oh, they're limited cards because they're collab, and I was like, they're not. Like they're just messing around with me. But then like I lost that account, and I did shortly find out after. Yeah, I shortly found out after that, like that they were limited, and I was so upset about it. I was like, what? I wasn't getting tricked on.
Your friends didn't lie to you.
I know, it's so weird.
But yeah, that's again, it could be discouraging sometimes when you lose like an account like that, and you may just like not play the game entirely, but you still stuck with it, Tia, so good for you on that. Any particular reason? Like again, was it like again you mentioned that you really wanted to try a rhythm game, but anything else about the series that really like caught your attention that made you want to give you a second chance even though you lost that first account?
So I actually lost like multiple accounts. It's really funny. I actually didn't play on ENdori for a while, and I actually migrated onto the Japan server for a really long time. So I was actually a JP player for the majority of it, and I started playing back on ENdori during the Kasumi and Roka Halloween. So, and I've kept with that account since, but there was no particular reason. It's just that I really liked like playing, like I really liked rhythm games, and I used to play a lot when I was younger, so it kind of got my attention. And especially like reading a little bit about the characters. Like my first ever band and my favorite was actually Yukina, and it was Roselia, because I like the aesthetic and I really like that type of stuff. And Yukina, I really liked her. I just liked when I was reading the story and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's of course, right? Like, there's always going to be a band that you that kind of grabs your attention right off the bat, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is definitely what I want to kind of pursue and look forward to, and kind of learn more about them, right? It's just that's the beauty about the series for sure. And I'll ask you just one other question again, Tia, as well. Favorite band, favorite character, what was it right now?
Oh, right now it's Karu, and it's Hello Happy World.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That
over time.
that definitely makes a lot of sense, considering, of course, your achievement in tiering, and of course we'll talk about all of our tiering achievements very shortly. But of course, kind of going to in a different topic, of course, tiering in a game like Bang Dream is very, very different from actually just enjoying it from a casual perspective. So kind of going into the tiering rabbit hole is obviously probably a different story entirely. Z, you already mentioned that you were initially kind of invited to go into SSM, and then eventually joining and tiering with other people at the start there. But how did that all start? What made you, what was like your introduction to tiering, and how did that all begin?
Okay, so my first ever title I got was a T10K as Evening Clear, so an actually boomer event. And then my first real tiering experience was Umbrella for the Autumn Rain, T2.5K, which was supposed to be a T1K, but I slacked a little bit. And then also Cooking Class Craziness. I unintentionally attempted a T100 back then because I was just playing a lot, but that also ended in a T1K.
I see.
But just seeing how close I got unintentionally made me want to actually get a T100.
Okay, so you were playing the game quite a lot, and you're like, oh well, this doesn't seem that bad, right? Trying to get these titles, and you were always so close and never really got it. So I imagine that was a little bit of a spark to try and learn more about tiering and try to improve your rankings, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So going from like playing by yourself to eventually joining a server, how did that happen? Did you like join like Pubcord back in the day, and you found someone and you just so happened to know what of the community, or what was that like? What was your first step?
No, actually, my first step was Envy, because I saw him on my Instagram page, and I saw him running around with the SSM tag, and I was like, what is that? Like, is it a group or something? So I just DM'd him and was like, that seems cool. I want to know what you're doing. Like, can you explain it to me? And then he just explained it to me, and I ended up joining SSM.
Oh, okay, well, that's very neat there. So when you first joined SSM and you did your tiering event, and then of course you mentioned that you got voted in your very first event, but when you joined that server, like what was that experience like? Did you feel that it was like, wow, this is so different than when I first expected of what tiering is like, or what was that overall experience like at the start?
I was a little bit shy in the server, I'm not gonna lie. I'm still not very good with people, and you can probably hear that by my voice. But basically I just kind of stuck to Envy and slowly opened up in the server, but it was different, a little bit different from what I imagined. Like, it was more strict and all that, especially a little smiley steps, because I think there might have been competition for T1, so we had to great escape our way throughout the whole event and like actually RePHIL together and all that. So that was a new experience for me.
Okay, yeah. So that is definitely a boomer event. I'm just checking right now. That was an event 4 years ago, which is kind of crazy, right? So you've definitely been in this gig for quite some time.
Sadly, I fall into hell and I can't get out.
Clearly 4 years, 4 years is definitely a lot of experience, which is really, really neat. So, but it's good that you were still able to keep at it with tiering, and of course eventually get these bigger titles. I'm going to move on to Tia real quick because I think for you, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tia, I think when you got into tiering, this was definitely a lot later because, of course, you got into the game a lot later as well. But how did you first get into tiering? What was your first, introduction to tiering?
Okay, so going back to last summer on TikTok, there was everyone talking about tiering servers, and I never really joined any of them, but that's kind of how I knew tiering servers were like a thing, but I didn't look too deep into them. I just thought it was just a bunch of people trying to get like top 1K, top 100. I didn't think of anything of like T10 or anything like that. Fast forwarding, I started casually tiering during Bandori 3 Hello Happy World. And so I was casually tiering for a while up until during the summer that how I got into tiering was actually through a really good friend of mine that I still talk to this day. I was scrolling on Instagram and I followed this one person that really liked Bandori, and I don't have that many Bandori friends at the time, so I was like, oh my god, Bandori, I love Bandori, let me have Bandori friends. So we followed each other back, and that same day they posted their tiering achievements and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, you tier 2? And while I was looking through them, I saw that they were T2 Valentine's POPY. So, hi, Tyrimi. This goes out to you. And so I found out through Tyrimi mainly because we had a conversation in the comments because I commented about tiering achievements, and obviously it's my first time seeing someone with like a T2 like really high title, and I was like, oh my god, that is so cool. And the one thing that mainly like we were just talking kind of about it and about like tiering and stuff like that, but it didn't get into me joining a server until later on in like private DMs. I was like asking them, like we were talking, and they invited me to my first server, which was Ragtime, because that was the first server I ever joined regarding Ragtime. And that's kind of how it started from there. It's now.
Wow, that's a pretty deep connection of different ways you end up getting in, which was really cool. And again, I guess shout outs to the the TikTok craze and the Instagram craze of all these tiering stuff, and kind of eventually kind of influenced you in a bit. So
I mean, it did if I'm here now.
yeah, that is true. That is true. So that's really neat. And again, I'll ask you this question as well. Like when you first got into learning more about tiering, right? Like the optimizations, or like what are the purposes of these servers, and I imagine that experience was quite different from just playing a bit on your own and trying to get like just a little small title here and there, right?
So I actually didn't start talking in servers until my T12. So I'm really shy. I'm socially awkward. I'm really bad at talking on Discord, mainly because of everyone that's on here. So I didn't start talking into servers until my T12, and I can still recount because I was so like shy. I remember a lot of things I would say a lot. I would always say like, oh, I apologize, or apologies, or this and that, because it was my first time also getting under the gist of like the regulations. That's a weird word, but you understand what I mean, like having to tier and understanding how to tier with others, especially when you're aiming so high for an event. So it was my first time actually doing that, and like it helped me learn a lot, but it wasn't like as bad as I expected. I think everyone's like experiences differ from the people you're with, but with the people that helped me tier, they were really kind and like respectful and like helped me out a lot. So
That's good. So again, I imagine again, it's even though you were initially a little bit hesitant to really kind of mingle or kind of really get involved at first, but I'm sure it was like the people that were in the community and all the support that you got eventually kind of convinced you to stay, and it's something that you think that it was something that you want to continue doing. Yeah, good. So like, is there anything else about like joining a community and like your expectations that you thought like were I guess exceeded expectations in terms of joining the tiering community, or is there something in particular that you fondly think that was something that you can't forget, and of course helped you continue to be in tiering?
Do you want to answer that one, or?
Okay, sure. For me, my first experience in SSM, I thought it was going to be more strict than it actually ended up being. I thought that tiering servers would be like this big scary group of people that have like years of experience. They're going to yell at me like in the military and all that, but it was actually very, very chill. Wow. It's just the initial thing of like learning everything and all that. Like, what does OP mean? What does that mean? What does RePHIL mean? Like all that stuff. What is a meta song? What is an optimal theme? It's a lot of information to take in, but like once you get used to that, it's actually super chill.
Yeah. The jargon for sure is one of the biggest things to kind of learn. It's definitely a learning curve, but for both you, Z, and also T, I imagine, right? Once you kind of learn the jargon and realize it's not as scary as it is, and it's not that bad, right?
Yeah, it really wasn't. I just think it was like, it really depends on the people you're with too. They were really, really kind and respectful, and I was really slow too, because my tolerance for tiering is like so low. I'd be tired within like the first 30 minutes. I'd be like, I need to go take a break. Be right back, you guys.
Yeah. It's definitely a learning curve, not only in terms of like learning the process, learning what is optimal, like the purpose of the server, but also yourself, right? Learning a little bit more about yourself, learning a little bit more about your limits, and figuring out what you need to do in order to achieve a certain rank, and how much you need to work in order to get there. So yeah, definitely a big learning curve when it comes to tiering sometimes. But again, both of you are still here for a reason. So again, thank you for sharing that, and also specifically to you, Tia, as well. Thank you for also taking that step forward of joining this podcast. And of course, speaking with people out there it may not be easy, but you're doing just fine right now. So
thank you. I'm here to support Z on this trip as well.
Thank you.
Well, Z, one question I am very curious now, learning the fact that you are, relatively boomer in terms of, into the game and learning about the tiering, right? You the first tiering event you've done, or one of the most, like the first events you've done, was like 4 years ago. So have you noticed anything, and this is just a question, you think about it a bit, but is there anything about the tiering community that you find has changed quite a bit for the good, or maybe not maybe in your preferences these past couple of years? Or is there anything that you noticed that has changed? I'm sure there's quite a bit of change within the past couple of years, but anything in particular that you noticed that really pops out?
I wasn't really like very active in the tiering community because I just never talk to people. but like server wise, I do miss like the old tiering groups that didn't have like a specific event in mind. Just like SSM, it was just a general tiering group. I liked those because you could get close to people, but now you do the events and then you just never talk again.
Yeah.
Or like most of the time, like with Espoir, we had a very good roster. I love the Kaomara gang. Oh, these are my favorite people in the world, I swear to God. But like these are like the only people I ever talk to, like my outside inside the people I tiered that with. I don't really talk with them like a lot.
Yeah.
So that's something I miss, just the general tiering groups.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because I guess back in the day, right, it wasn't necessarily once you saw an event in ENdori, someone would immediately, like, for instance, make a server for said particular event, and like a year in advance to prepare. It was always kind of already a little bit of an established group, and if they wanted to work together in tier, that's what they would do. And I could definitely see that, right? That's definitely something that hasn't been done as much recently. There are some people, right? There are some groups that I know for certain are pretty close and tight knit, and they are kind of bringing that back in a sense. One thing I do like about these, I guess, event servers. And again, it's a little bit of a pain to find every single server for like every single event that you want to do. That's a little bit of a pain, but I do think it's also a little bit easier for people to get into these kind of servers as well. And again, feel free, anyone listening live, to contribute to the discussion as well. But also, I if the event is just specifically a server specifically for an event, it makes it easier for new people to kind of get in. Where if it's an established group already, it's a little bit more difficult to kind of get in there and learn more about tiering and really get into it. Obviously, things have changed, and you still established groups are, I'm sure, still very welcoming to new people. But I think it's just definitely like pros and cons to both scenarios. So it's pretty interesting to learn from that perspective, because I didn't actually get into tiering too. I would say I'm pretty boomer in a sense, but not really. I think like you actually got into tiering much sooner than I did. So just learning that perspective from you is still pretty interesting for sure.
Yeah, I also agree with your points that it's easier for new people to come in if it's like for one specific event.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also easier for fills, because then everyone who's in the server wants to tier that event, and not everyone in a big group wants to do the same event. So that's also right. Like a positive point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then of course it's up to the person to figure out if they're able to build hopefully some great friendships along the way in the event servers, because obviously once the event is done, that the server does kind of die down pretty quickly in activity, unless if there's some sort of ulterior motive to maybe do another event, or maybe someone really wants to continue that train. But again, that's something that again a lot of people I think have done really well, that they find a really good friend in the tiering server, and they want to continue building that friendship. So it's pretty interesting. Good. Tia, and just a quick going back to you, is that something that you felt as well, like when you got into tiering servers, like did it feel, I know again you were shy at first, but did it feel a little easier to get in there once you kind of dip your toes in and got in and realize, oh, these people aren't that scary and we're all here for a similar goal?
Oh yeah, definitely. As long as you find the right people, it's definitely not as scary as I imagined it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's good. Yeah. That's very good to hear. Again, it's again, it can be intimidating at first, especially with a bunch of strangers and all that. But again, I think that's what makes it really tiering so cool, because it's such a niche thing, and yet everyone in that server has one goal in common, which is to try and tier in for an event and do well in an event. So it's really easy to kind of build that first impression and really kind of work together on that. So
yeah, definitely. I think that's what made it more comforting, is that having people that have the same like goals as you, it definitely doesn't feel as like, oh, you're the only one who's aiming for such high title, that there's other people as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Good. Well, that's another great discussion, regards to tiering. So why don't we now jump right into learning a little bit more about your individual experiences and how, you were able to get these titles that I mentioned in the intro. So Z, earlier you mentioned that you got BO.A.T, which was, I'm sure a not so fun experience of getting the exact 101. So obviously for a lot of people, when they get BO.A.T, they might just get demotivated and just quit the game entirely. But for you, I don't, obviously that wasn't the case. You did not do that.
The opposite effect.
Yeah, it gave you even more motivation to do better, right? So, what was the next, what did you do next after that BO.A.T? Like what did you prepare for? What was something that kind of you did, and kind of what was your sort of redemption arc right there?
Okay, so first when I saw the BO.A.T, I was like very disappointed. Mm-hmm. But then a few days passed and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try again and I'm gonna get the T100 this time for sure. Mm-hmm. So I then looked at events that happened during my school breaks, so I could have like the entire week to play. Mm-hmm. And then I saw Blossoming in Largo with Sayo and Rinko. And Sayo was my current best girl back then. So I was like, I'm going to tier that, because it's Sayo and it's during like a school holiday. So I'm going to have a lot of free time. So then I asked around a bit in SSM and prepared around 6 or 7K stars, I believe, to be safe just in case, and just played a lot. I stayed around top 15 the entire event. Because I was just so paranoid after the boat. I was like, I'm just gonna keep playing.
Yeah, top 15 clearly is not safe enough for top 100. You never know.
You never know.
Yeah. So, and how was that experience overall? Like, did you realize, like, wow, I had to play so much more than, like, before? And was that challenging at first?
Not so much, because the thing with Little Smiley Steps was I underestimated the cutoff somehow. Like, I can't explain it, but I saw the estimated cutoff and I was like, okay, I'm there, so I'm gonna be fine. But then I learned the hard way, the estimates are not like actually reliable.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go like, I don't know, 300K above the estimate to be safe for sure. And I still stand by that logic.
Yep. Definitely, sometimes, Lisa bot, which is now dead, it's now Kanan bot. But the estimates are not perfect because it's not like they have like an algorithm. It's really just us, the player base giving the scores and giving people information. But yeah, so it is a bit, the estimates definitely can be a little deceiving. So, I'll always be mindful of that. That's definitely a pretty important tip.
Yeah, that's definitely a tip I would give to new tiers. Always go above the estimates. You do not want to end up like me.
Yeah. Don't trust estimates with your, with your life there.
Go above. Just overshoot in the T50 or something, but like be safe.
Yeah. Exactly. Just always be safe as much as possible, especially now with with new titles like the T50, T300, right? There's a lot more boat titles, as we call it. So if you don't want to be a victim of that, so just gotta play more.
Yeah, especially the addition of new titles like made T100 a little bit woker than I was used to, because I took like a long break at some point from Bandori, and then I came back and was like, I'm gonna T100 Iris, so like the Nanami event, the Team Live. And then I went 300K above the estimates and got voted to 103rd place.
Oh no. So even after a whole break, and you kind of took a whole break, and you came back, and the boat still welcomed you with open arms. Oh boy. Yeah. So, again, definitely lessons learned. Like, again, getting boated could be a very distraught feeling and very disappointing and maybe sometimes discouraging feeling. But again, Z, it looked like you kind of took that as a learning experience and really just kind of pushed yourself towards getting doing better for next time. So yeah, good. So I guess going then into that, because I was just gonna mention, like, oh yeah, there's a pretty big break between sort of difference between Blossoming and Largo versus getting your first T10 in outside inside. That's like a pretty significant gap in time. It made sense that it was a bit of a break, which is perfectly understandable. But what kind of inspired you that this is something you wanted to do? You wanted to go for a T10 title specifically for this layer event. So what was the motivation there?
So originally, before I took the super long break I had, I was originally on the roster of Xander for Melody of the Dignified Winds, but I ended up dropping because of Bandori burnout, so that was a little bit embarrassing. And I just disappeared on the face
that's
of the
not
planet.
embarrassing at all. Not embarrassing at all. It happens to all the best of us.
Yeah, then I just kind of disappeared and then came back after How My Heart Sings got announced on JP. And then the speed up and all that happened. I was originally gonna do How My Heart Sings T10, but then the speed up and Ojamajo, the delays and all that. So I was like, okay, never mind. That's not gonna work out. So then I was in outside inside because I was originally gonna T100s. But then like the entire roster dropped like the day before. So I DM'd who was the one? Castro was the one, I believe.
Yeah.
I DM'd him and I got put on the roster with like a super shit team. I was getting like 12K per song. I was barely in the master room, and it was a disaster because I had a new account, so it was like I got carried by the level up flames. Those carried me.
Wow.
So it was unplanned with a shit team, with a baby account, with work. The event started on a day I had to work, so I slept through my alarm because events start at 3 or 2 a.m. for me. So I slept through that, then was stuck at work until 4 p.m. And had to catch up with my shit team. And then also I had school like after the weekend. So I'm not sure how I managed to pull that off.
Oh boy.
It's a very spur of the moment thing.
That's crazy. The fact that you were like everything was kind of going against you, right? Like, the fact that you had like you came out from a break, you kind of had like a new account, you kind of have to start from scratch all over in sort of preparations. Then the schedule changes, right? The schedule changes that affected your tiering plans because ENdori speed up and all that. A lot of things went against you, Z, in terms of this preparation, but like. You mentioned like, you don't know how exactly that worked or how that happened, but, was there anything like in particular about Outside Inside that you recall that, you did that was like, that was notable, that made you really motivated to continue to pursue that T10 title, despite the fact that everything was kind of against you in terms of time, in terms of, your in-game resources, what kind of just like, motivated you, push you that this was something that you wanted to do?
I think just the general idea of having a T10 title was just motivation enough for me, because like boomer me was like baby me was like, wow, people with a T10 are so cool, I want to be like that too. So it's mainly that, and also that I managed to catch up to T10 when I got off work. I pulled like, back then for me those were insane hours from 4 p.m. to like 1 a.m., which isn't actually that long, especially considering that I managed to do 17 hours during Espoir. But like back then for me that was like, oh wow, I broke my limits, I'm gonna keep going, because now I'm here in T10. I managed to break into T10, so it can only go better from now on.
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy story to hear. Again, the fact that you were so many things, but you worked hard, you pulled some hours in, and that event, it was definitely an event that was just doable, right? So
it's RAS, like it's dead.
It's so sad.
When in doubt, always tier RAS events, they're always dead.
Did you find that event more difficult than, let's say, the events back in the day, like Little Step and Blossom of Largo? Like, did you find this event more difficult?
Maybe a little bit challenging, yeah, because I've never done a T10. Like, I've never done those hours before, so that was a little bit challenging, but it worked out in the end. Even though we had a sniper and we had a fight for 10th place, like 10 and 11 were like super close to each other, so that was a little bit insane.
A little bit of a storyline as well, which is obviously it's fun for the spectators, not so much for the people involved in it, but
especially when you have a crappy team.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, hey, even with that, terrible team and the time allocation that you had in the event, you still got 7th place. Pretty far away from the cutoff, and I'm sure that once that settled in, that you got that title, you were just like, oh, like wow, like this was something that you're very proud of, and probably very relieved of.
Yeah, I was finally able to breathe.
Yeah. Did that happen like near the end of the event? Like there wasn't any point like in the middle of the event that you already knew that you had it. Like I'm sure it was pretty stressful all the way to the end.
Yeah, like especially when it was like maybe middle of the event that we realized we have a sniper. Like originally it was like just 10 people going for it, but then Riku, who was T4, then suddenly just appeared in T10 out of nowhere. So that was a scare. And then T10 and T11 were fighting for 10th place throughout the rest of the event.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah. Again, I think for a lot of people, especially if you're still on the lower end of the T10 part, you're not really, you're not really relaxing just yet. But until the very end, and especially because for you, Z, the boat experience is all gone too much, right? So you don't want to have that happen again. So.
I was so glad I woke up early the last day, because I saw the T10 and T11 move, and I was like, not another little smiley steps, not happening this time. not during a T10.
No more boat. So
no more boats.
Yeah, we gotta reject the boat. But again, that's a really great achievement, getting your T10 despite everything going against you. So big props to you. Z,
Thank
and
you.
Big congrats on that first T10 again. It's always nice. The first T10 is always the one that you're really proud of, even though you were in the game and you tiered for so long, right? And such, but getting that first title is always the very memorable and great feeling. And
it's forever gonna be precious to me.
Yeah. On a really funny aside note, I also want to maybe indirectly thank you as well, because of the fact that you because of circumstances that had you drop out of Melody of Dignified Win, that kind of allowed me to join Xander's server and roster and get T10. So it may not have been specifically your spot. It may have not been specifically your spot, but then his roster did open up to the point where I was able to eventually get in and get my first T10 title there. So a little bit of indirect fun connection there.
Yeah, that's true. I dropped in like mid-May 2021, if that helps.
It
might have been.
I'll have to look into my DMs with Xander to see if that was around the time where I joined. So but pretty small world. That's the fun thing about the tiering community.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a little small world. It's like, oh yeah, one action led to another. So it's pretty fun. There. So yeah, and that still is my only T10 title to date. But we'll see how things go.
It is a very
there.
pretty T10 title.
It's a good one. I really like it. The title is
very pretty.
I love it. It's definitely really good for sure. So let's talk about the big event, because we're starting to approach that time where Espoir is the big event where both of you tiered, both Z and Tia, both of you tiered this event. Before we talk about like what exactly happened in that event, Tia, going back to you real quick. When it came to joining that server and really trying to make an impression there, what kind of inspired you that this was something that you wanted to really like, get not just, casually tiering and maybe using the tiering server here and there, but like actually like, trying to actively get a really good title and start communicating with people. So what was that motivation? And, the answer could just be cowardly and that's it. But is there anything else with that?
She's one of them. So I don't really know the reason why myself, actually. I'm a really big person when it comes to getting high achievements. And it's ironic because in the past, I used to make jokes. I was like, oh my God, yeah, people who aim T10, they don't have time. They don't have any time on their life. Like, they just have too much time on their lives. Like, they're like, they need to touch some grass, need to go do something with their lives. I was like joking all about that. I was like, T10, definitely not for me. I could never. You would have to have so much time on your hands just to be able to aim so high. Like, probably don't even go outside. Like, I was just being a little, like, jokester. I'm so funny. But being a really high achiever, I was like, what if I aim T10 for this event? Because originally, during my casually tiering days, I was like, I'm going to aim T100. Because I thought T100 was, like, a really big deal. And to some parts, it is. It's definitely a really high, like, rank. But I was like, I was there for when this event dropped, because it was during the time I was migrated on the Japan server for a hot while. So I was like, I think I'm going to aim T10 for this. And I actually went to Tairemi about it, and they hooked me up with a server. And then I was like, it was competition originally, and then I ended up joining the roster that I played with now shortly after, because I was like, the competition server was really small, and so I was like, this definitely isn't going to help too much if I'm gonna assume based on my little tiering knowledge. So that's kind of how that happened.
Okay, well that definitely is really interesting again, because again it does take a little bit of preparation and a little bit of mental fortitude to just say, you know what, this is something I want to do. I want to get this T10 title and show that, you know, you have what it takes to do it. Was there anything in particular that you thought like, or you prepared that you thought like, oh, this was something that I wanted to make sure that you know, I was ready for this tiering, or you just kind of went right into it and just kind of play by ear, see how it goes?
So I think I prioritized the team a lot. I don't really know. I didn't understand a lot of things about tiering, considering the fact I never talked into any other servers. So I used like my little knowledge of what I understood, and with some help here and there, I was like, I prioritized teams a lot, for which honestly is kind of my biggest regret, because considering like the event type we had and just a bunch of other circumstances, I could have been able to do that like T10 perfectly fine without me having to like think about team so much. So
yeah, you know, again, teams, obviously having a good team could really help with optimizing and trying to get the most out of your time. But obviously, at the end of the day, time is really the most important resource in this in tiering. And of course, if you have the ability to splurge a little in order to get more stars, then obviously that's an added bonus. Obviously, not necessary, but of course, as we heard from Z earlier, having a terrible team doesn't necessarily mean you could you know, fail your goals. So you know, it really is, time management is definitely very important. But I'm sure Tia, you definitely learned quite a lot.
I did.
Well. Yeah.
There was a lot of things I regret during the event, and I hope to improve on them.
But one thing I think you probably did not regret was meeting the wonderful people in the server like Z. So do you remember when like you first like interacted you know, in the server? Because I'm sure like the Espoir server was the first time the two of you interacted. So do you guys remember the first time that interacted?
No.
Me neither.
I do know that. So I was late on event start. I was late on event start because I actually was at a 3-year-old's birthday party.
Oh no.
Like 11 p.m. or so, and at the time I remember Z actually went to take a break, and Matsuri, she was like, Tia, can we steal you from G2 so we can help you like get onto the like leaderboard? And I was like, yeah, sure. So me and Z just kind of like switched for a couple hours, and then I think after that though we just played, like we were in the room together for like the rest of the event though, and we were like on VC for the majority of it.
Yeah, it was basically just the roster throughout like the entire event in the rooms.
Yeah, so again, sometimes it gets a little blurry when it comes to like tiering, because you're also focused on tiering that you kind of forget about like very specific details and whatnot. But again, that's the great thing about tiering, where like, you know, you're all working together towards a goal, and especially need to pass some time, you all just hop on VC and just kind of, you know, mingle and chat and, you know, spend the time away, and you know, as A2Z plays mindlessly in the background. So yeah, so you know, that's pretty good though. The fact that, you know, the two of you were able to, you know, despite not really, you know, just the fact that you were able to get together or learn a little bit more about each other through VC, and just learning more in the server, right? And just kind of hanging out together in the server. That's really what really matters the most, right? Friendships really grow quite quickly when you're in a tiering server. You all have the same goal, and you're just kind of spending like a whole week together on a virtual platform. So yeah, that's good. That's good.
Stepping circles for a week.
Yeah.
And watching terrible movies.
I'm watching Ensemble Stars live stream like Matsuri in the voice chats.
1 day playlist.
Yeah. Oh boy, 1 day you went through it? Oh man.
It And I was like half asleep in the VC too. And I remember Matsuri was like, hey, do you want to like VC so we can help you stay awake? And I was like, sure. And so while we're listening to music, I didn't realize we were listening to ENdori's music, and I don't know anything about ENdori. I never got into it. And like half of our roster, like half of our roster liked it. And I have a vivid memory before the event start. We were in the T10 chat, and Matsuri, I remember she went like, she's like, this may seem kind of cringy, but do any of you guys like ENdori? And so like they just started talking about ENdori, and I was like, I don't know anything about it. I just know like small little things here and there.
Oh boy. Yeah. That is definitely the tiering server experience in a nutshell. You really kind of go into some strange things to spend some time and pass the time, but anything to kind of make sure you're still staying sane during A to Z spam over and over again. So totally makes sense. I want to go back to Yuzi real quick because again, for you, right, this was an even bigger achievement, getting T3, right, in that event. So, what kind of inspired you that this was something that you wanted to take the next step further, right? Not just the T10, you want to actually go for a T3 and really show that, get a podium title for the first time.
So you're not going to believe this. It's outside, inside all over again.
Oh, no.
I was supposed to just T10. But we didn't have a T3 runner, so I was like, don't mind if I do, and then it worked out.
Wow. You just kind of walked in, you're like, all right, let's do it, let's try it.
Yes, and I'm glad I tried because it was a fun experience.
Was it challenging? Did you find that it was even another step up over, the T10 experience?
Not really, no. Really? Like, Espoir was kind of dead, I'm not gonna lie. Like, we literally porked, with 2 days left of the event, I think, or 3 days, but, and stay there for, an entire day, and then only moved when there was a sniper coming in bottom T10.
Yeah, so again, it's a pretty interesting discussion because for a lot of people, sometimes, and this may be a very hot take for some people, but for instance, a podium for some people may not actually be that difficult, or at least maybe less challenging than a T10 or lower level, mainly because sometimes in those lower level, because although you don't have to play as much, there's more people trying to play for those titles. So you're actually competing with more people. It might actually be more challenging. It's a really interesting take that I don't really have an opinion on because I don't tier enough to really kind of give that opinion, but it's pretty interesting to see that you kind of feel that way, that it was it was tough, a lot of time spent, but probably more than the 9 hours that you spent on outside inside, but it didn't seem like you struggle as much in this one.
Yeah, not really. I was actually surprised by myself that I managed to do 17 hours almost straight since event started, with little breaks here and there to get food and drinks and all that. But I'm gonna be completely honest, I swear to God, podium is way easier than T10 purely because of the snipers. If you're in podium, you're already at the bottom, at the top half. So you're playing anyway because you're podium, so you need to move anyway. T10, you can sleep a little bit, I guess, until a sniper comes in or something. But then that's stressful because then there's snipers and then you need to move. Meanwhile, podium, you're just playing whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, it's a matter of resource and how much resource allocation you want to give, right? With the podium, right, you really have to put a lot of resources in, whereas a T10 or a T100, you don't necessarily need to put as much, but that could be an illusion of how much you actually need to put in, and that could really make things a little bit more challenging than needed. So it is quite a different experience for sure. Overall, Z, I'm again, it's great to hear that you end up getting a T3 and you'll be able to get that podium title, right, for Espoir. I'm sure that you're, again, also very happy about that, the fact that you have, a podium and a T10. So That's good. That's good. Tia, in the meantime, again, it seemed like you eventually got voted. What was the story there? What happened?
God, so it's kind of there's a bunch of circumstances. I'm a minor, so obviously I don't have my own like plans I can do and clear my schedules and stuff like that. Like, so if my parents want to go out, they want to go out. I tried to clear my schedule as much as possible, but I actually had a bunch of birthday family events that week. Like events start. Me going to the 3-year-old birthday party from 7 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. I was home by 11:30. I also had like mid-event. I also had a dinner as well. That one didn't last as long. It was just like a dinner. So it's like I was pretty busy, mainly just with my own like family, friends, and other like IRL situations. That's definitely that's definitely a part, like partially because of it. I also did not prioritize stars enough. That's my biggest regret without this entire event. I did not prioritize stars very well. I really wish I did. That's definitely something I like. One of my biggest regrets is definitely that. Like, I shouldn't have focused on teams so hard. I should have definitely focused more on getting stars. And I knew they were a big priority, like within the first 2 weeks before, Espoir. I cannot say that name, so I'm gonna
it's all good.
I'm gonna refer to this Kyle banner for the sake of my sanity.
Yeah.
Like the first 2 weeks before Kyle banner, I farmed like 10K stars within those 2 weeks, and I think that if I didn't get sniped, I definitely like could have made it throughout that entire event, because there was that sniping situation and all that. But even with like me getting voted, it's not that I'm upset about it. I personally am really happy with the memories that came out of it. And personally, it's just it's a learning experience. We all aren't going to be perfect, especially when it comes to aiming so high. I never had a prior high tiering experience. Like the only higher tiering experience I got was a voted T100 on Summer Raz. So that's like the closest I ever got. But even then, I didn't have that much like high tiering experience. So it's a learning experience for everyone.
Yeah. But, regardless, Tia, I'm glad that you're kind of, consider it like a really fun time to tier with some newly built friends, right? Especially when this was your first time being able to interact with people in the community, and of course consider it a learning experience in tiering. So I definitely look forward to hearing very soon about your future tiering plans sometime in 2023. We'll hopefully see you on the T10 leaderboard at some point. So, that's something that, I'm sure that you're going to learn from, and of course, have some great times to remember from this Espoir event. So, yeah, good. Anything else that the two of you want to briefly mention about Espoir that hasn't been mentioned, or any like other fun things?
There's actually a lot.
Yes, it was a really fun event for both of us. I do have a really bizarre story.
So,
during the event, was second day of event. Me and Matsuri ended up finding out we both lived in the same area.
Oh.
Yes, which is a really bizarre thing, because you don't meet someone on the leaderboard, like you don't meet someone on roster who lives in the same general area as you, and it was like really crazy to the both of us, because we both had a feeling that we were like, yeah, we definitely live in this area, but we never said anything because we were like nervous, because it seems weird. It seems weird to be like, hey, by the way, where are you from? When you barely know these people, it was a really bizarre thing, and it's such a silly like story of how something so like small can lead into something like this.
That, again, as I mentioned earlier, small world, right? It's crazy how small this world is with the tiering community, when one things lead to another, and you might be tiering with your fellow neighbor. You never know.
Exactly. It's I'm still in shock about it to this day, because like
that is a pretty big coincidence for sure. That's really cool. That's you never know what that's going to happen until you actually tier. And, it's always really fun to see these kind of like experiences for sure. Yeah. Z, anything else? Or is there something you want to mention about your recent achievement as well that you did like not too long ago?
Like last event?
Yeah, like literally a couple days ago.
So you're not gonna believe this again. It was unplanned as well.
Yeah.
I had no server. I was just fighting pups with A to Z and also two-manning with Espoir gang when they had time.
Mm-hmm.
I just woke up and chose violence. I saw T10 was snipeable, so I was like, you know what? Might as well. Rei is in the event, Kaoru is in the event, Masuki is in the event, so like it's a win for me.
Okay. And was that experience a little bit different? Just doing this technically by yourself, right? Not really necessarily like a server, but with like a very small group of people and just kind of playing on your own. Was that like a pretty different experience from, in an actual formal server event kind of setting?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like normally sets take like a little bit over an hour in like the tiering room, but if you're pubbing, it's awful. It's awful because pubs that like they pick non-meta songs, they have bad connection, they just stall for no reason. Mm-hmm. Then I get Tori no Utat and need to dodge and then get feature blocked for 5 minutes. So that was a struggle.
Yeah, that is definitely a struggle. So, that's why, again, tiering servers, that's why they're made to really make the quality of life of tiering so much better. So, obviously it's very doable to do it by yourself. And many people, including yourself and many other people in this podcast have done it by themselves, but it's just so much more difficult. I don't think I would be able to do something like that, but who knows? So,
I only did it because it was VS Live, so I can just A to Z pubs and I'm not gonna get disbanded, so a win for me.
Yeah, for sure.
And also my team was kind of beefy, so I managed to outscore all of them, so that was also nice.
Well, that's a much stark contrast from outside inside, so it's good.
Yeah, that's true.
That is good. Okay, well, both of you, I think we'll wrap up the episode today when it comes to your experiences. And again, both of you have shared some lovely, great stories and experiences of your tiering and you getting into Bandori. So thank you so much for sharing. Just before we end off, I just want to quickly ask about any future plans in tiering that you want to share with everyone out there to possibly get a support, or if there's any other final words or shout outs that you want to give to anyone. So Z, we'll start with you. Any shout outs, last words, and maybe future events that you want to possibly consider.
Yeah, so shout out to the entire Espoir gang. I love you guys. Espoir was truly our common baby America moment. It was a very USA of us and very ensemble stars and all that. As for future plans, I'm thinking of, right now I'm doing Backseat Pass Part 1. For future plans, I'm thinking of Baby Arisa if it ends up during school holiday. Mm-hmm. And Christmas Kauchisa with Espoir Gang again. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And maybe some unplanned T10s here and there, knowing me.
Unplanned T10s. Oh boy. Well, we'll see how that goes. And of course, anyone listening out there in the podcast, we want to support, our guests in their tiering achievements. Feel free to, of course, join the Younger Academy Discord server, interact with special guests during these podcasts, and of course, also reach out to our guests like Z and Tia on their future tiering plans. And I'm sure they would greatly appreciate your support. Tia, we'll also have you share any last words, last shout outs, and any other future events that you wish to do. Muted? Is Tia still here?
Oh, they're muted. I think they should still be here.
Oh. Well,
they have to take their dog out real quick.
Okay.
And that happened during Espoir as well. They had to take their dog out like every 2 games. It was kind of funny.
No.
I just became a meme.
A to Z dog, just
dog
playing
griefing.
Dog griefing. Oh boy. So yeah, we'll just wait a little bit before and let Tia say any last words before we end off. So we'll definitely stall a little bit of time here with the dog being out. Z, is there any like future New Year's resolutions specifically with Bandori that you have? Like maybe not necessarily tier related. If there's other things about Bandori that you want to have in terms of New Year's resolutions.
I think it's just being able to attempt a T1 for a Ray event that's currently unannounced. That's also gonna fall during a good time for me. Hopefully, we'll pray because with ENdori schedule, you never know.
Yeah. A little bit of like it's always really challenging. Like you want to find like an event that's like specifically for your favorite character, but also have another second character that's also your favorite. So happen to be on the same attribute that you have, and also happen to be on a time that makes sense. And there's a lot of things that really have to fall in place. But if it was a Ray event that was like your dream event, what would that be? Would that be like Ray and some other character, and what would it look like? What would it look like? And this could be maybe because a Bushiroad employee is listening. Maybe we could spread.
That would be nice. making it easier for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ray banner for sure, and I was thinking like either a full RAS event with Masure pair because I like them a lot. Or maybe like Arisa or Nanami, my other 2 faves, or like Hina or Kaoru. I'm flexible. I have a lot of favorite characters, so as long as it's Ray banner and someone I also like, I will probably T1.
All right. Well, hopefully that comes sooner rather than later. Again, we are approaching the 6th year anniversary of Bandori and JP Dori, so we'll see how that goes if that does end up happening. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Z, that event does get announced for 2023, and maybe you'll end up tiering it in 2023, or maybe
hopefully.
Sometime in 2024. So that's quite a ways away, but you never know, right? So
yeah, but at least I can prepare in advance. I mean, like some unannounced event, it's gonna like always be in my head on like, what if next event announcement is the event I want to do.
Yeah.
So that's also like a good against my gacha addiction.
Oh.
So like, what if I cannot spend, because what if next event gets announced and it's something I want to tier?
Yeah. Then all the stars are no longer used for gacha currency. They're used for tiering currency. So yeah. That's kind of me as well. I don't really gacha at all. Just because, it's just like, I have to, what if I want to tier, right? So it's just like,
Yeah, exactly. I also do not feel like dealing with RNG, so I just kind of do the paid guarantees that like the new 4-star guarantees that we have right now.
Yeah.
I just do like those gachas and I'll call it a day.
Yeah.
I had my fun with gacha back when I wasn't like a tier.
Yeah.
So now it's for tiering. Now the stars are for tiering.
Yeah. Tiering really takes away all the stars, right? Stars are no longer gacha currency anymore. That's just too much of a gamble.
They're just
It's too much of a gamble. So yeah. I wonder if Tia's still back. Oh, Tia's back.
I'm so sorry.
The dog.
I'm so sorry.
The dog. I heard about the dog. So yeah.
I'm so sorry about that.
That's pretty much like the fact that you talked about like unexpected IRL things coming up and be like, oh yeah, things happen. I'm like, yep, we experienced it firsthand here. So all good,
Yes.
Tia.
literally before this, I was taking out my dog and I was telling it to like the roster. I was like, taking out my dog right now, so she doesn't bother me during this entire like thing.
Dog has
sorry about that.
All good. We were just wrapping up, Tia, so I just want to ask if you have any last words, last shout outs you want to make, and also if you want to share any future events that you want to do for possibly for 2023.
I don't really have that much. I am aiming T10 for an upcoming event 2023. I hope everyone could take a wild guess.
Is it something Kaoru related?
Yes, it's specifically definitely totally not one of my favorite like duos ever.
Oh.
But yeah. Maybe T10 again, and I do hope I make it this time after I learn from my own experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Unexpected things, though. You never know what could happen, just like now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, again, to you all the best. Of course, if anyone listening to a podcast right now want to support our special guests and their tiering achievements, feel free to let them know. And of course, I'm sure they greatly appreciate the support. So, hopefully 2023 will bring that New Year's resolution to you, Tia, getting your T10 title. So
thank you. I do appreciate it.
Good. All right. So I think we'll be wrapping up today's episode. So thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the RePHIL Studio podcast, and obviously being the last episode of 2022. So make sure you get your cans ready and for the next refill in 2023 for our next episode. But until then, thank you all so much for watching this episode. Of course, check us out on all your favorite podcast platforms like YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And of course, feel free to join the Anga Academy Discord server if you want to interact with any of our lovely guests and in the future and present and past. So thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you all in 2023. Bye now.